Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating, one of the most profound frameworks of human existence ever recorded, the 12 Vedic Bhavas, or astrological houses. Now, think of this less like a static chart of the sky and more like a living, breathing map of human consciousness. Literally, from the second we're born to the final liberation of our spirit, these 12 houses track our entire journey. We're talking about our psychology, our families, our wealth, and even a literal step-by-step descent down our physical bodies. So to make sense of this incredibly dense astrological system, we're going to break the 12 houses down into 3 acts that basically mirror the chronological timeline of life itself. We've got Act 1, Foundation, Act 2, Engagement, and Act 3, Transcendence. Starting things off, we have Act 1, Foundation. Covering houses 1 through 4, this is the phase of the self, wealth, effort, and home. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible rhythmic architecture that anchors every single house in this system. Take House 1, right? The house of the body. It's governed by the sun in Aries, the fire deity Agni, and that fiery, active Pitta dosha, represented by the ruby and literally our bones. But slide over to House 2, and the energy totally shifts to Jupiter in Taurus, the deity Indra, and the yellow sapphire. It rolls over fat and the heavier, grounding Kapha and Vata doshas. Every single element here has a highly specific resonance. But stepping back from the technical data for a second, let's look at what these houses actually mean for us. House 1, known as Tanu, is the spark of life. It's you, your innate nature, your ego, the I am. Anatomically, it's your head and your brain. But once you exist, you've got to survive, right? You need fuel. And that drops us straight into House 2, Dana. This is the house of accumulated wealth, food, and speech. Notice how we physically move from the brain in House 1 right down to the face, the mouth, and the right eye in House 2. You're born, and then you learn to eat and speak. Okay, so once we can eat and speak, we start moving around. In Houses 3 and 4, we see a really powerful energetic shift. House 3 is fueled by Mars in Gemini, represented by red coral and bone marrow. It's this fiery, restless Martian energy that blends all 3 doshas. But then House 4 puts on the brakes, shifting into the moon in Cancer, represented by the pearl and the blood. It cools things way down to a highly emotional, lunar-driven state. Why exactly do we swing from Mars to the moon like that? Well, House 3 is all about deliberate action, our hobbies, and our raw effort. Physically, it rules the arms and shoulders, literally the tools we use to grab at the world around us. But naturally, all that restless Martian hustle in House 3 builds a serious desire for rest and security. And that brings us to House 4. This is your emotional core. It's home comforts, your mother, your vehicles. Anatomically, the journey moves from the arms straight into the chest, the lungs, and the heart. So, we've got our foundation locked in. We have a body, resources, the ability to act, and a safe home base. But we can't just hide in our houses forever. So what happens when our foundation is securely set and we finally step out to engage with the wider world? That brings us to Act 2, Engagement. Covering houses 5 through 8, this is where we explore creativity, challenges, partnerships, and vulnerability. If you look at the screen, you'll spot a really cool visual consistency. Jupiter and Mars step right back onto the stage for houses 5 and 6. Jupiter rules House 5 with the yellow sapphire, again, just like we saw back in House 2, bringing expansion and wealth. But immediately after that, Mars comes swinging back in House 6 with the red coral, which signals a sudden return to friction, heat, and serious effort. This planetary shift maps perfectly onto real life. House 5 is all about creative intellect, prosperity, romance, and children. It's the absolute joy of creation. But as we all know, creation brings responsibility and, honestly, a lot of friction. Enter House 6. This is the house of enemies, debts, sickness, and the daily repetitive grind of your job. It's the harsh reality of maintaining what you just built. And check out the anatomy here. We move from the liver and navel in House 5 straight down into the intestines and digestive tract in House 6. We are literally digesting the challenges of life. But look, surviving that daily grind is exactly what prepares us for real connection. Here we introduce Venus and Saturn. House 7 is governed by Venus in Libra, sparkling with the diamond, the classic symbol of partnership. But right next door is House 8, governed by the heavy, restrictive energy of Saturn in Scorpio, anchored by the deep, dark blue sapphire. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the coolest concepts in this framework, natural opposites. Think back to House 1. It was entirely about the self, your head, your ego. But look directly across the chart at House 7 and you find the ultimate other. This is your spouse, your business partners, and how you relate to the world at large. We've moved from the very top of the head in House 1 all the way down to the internal sexual organs in House 7. It is practically a perfect mirror. Here's the catch, though. When two people truly merge in House 7, they inevitably have to face the ultimate vulnerabilities in House 8. Randra is the house of sudden, massive transformation. It strips the ego completely away. This house governs longevity, the deep mysteries of life and death, and even tantric practices. But it's also the danger zone, scandals, conspiracies, sudden upheavals, and unearned wealth like inheritances. It represents all the wildly unpredictable forces we just cannot control. Let's just take a quick pause here because I really want you to see what we've covered so far. The Vedic chart isn't just some abstract psychological profile. It's a literal, step-by-step map down the human body. We started at the head and brain in House 1, then moved to the face in 2, the arms in 3, the heart in 4, the navel and intestines in 5 and 6, and now we're at the pelvic region in 7 and 8. It is a perfect chronological descent from the mind down to our most primal, vulnerable physical connections. So, our foundation is built, we've found our partners, and we've weathered the sudden, chaotic storms of House 8. What on earth is left? What happens when our partnerships are tested by life's ultimate mysteries, and we start looking beyond our immediate circles? We enter the final phase, Act 3, Transcendence. Covering houses 9 through 12, this is the realm of philosophy, action, gains, and ultimately liberation. Let's move to and see how this builds into higher consciousness. In houses 9 and 10, we get these massive, expansive societal energies. Jupiter makes another comeback in Sagittarius for House 9, bringing the yellow sapphire back into play to signify wisdom and fortune. Then Mercury steps up in Capricorn for House 10, using the emerald to govern structure, action, and our outward expression in the world. Once again, we get to see those natural opposites in action. Remember House 4? That was our private, emotional foundation, home, mother, the heart. But shoot straight across the chart to House 10, and you hit your public reputation, your career, your status in society, and the father. It's literally the highest point in the sky, our peak worldly ambition. And anatomically, we're now looking at the knees and the spine, the very structures you need to stand tall in society. But here's the thing. Before you can hit that peak status in House 10, you need a compass, a guiding philosophy. And that is exactly the role of House 9, Dharma. This house represents our natural law, our alignment with the universe. It signifies higher education, the Vedas, ethics, and worldview. It's the accumulated wisdom of our journey, often expanding our horizons through foreign travel or pilgrimages. Physically, it governs the thighs and hips, literally the joints that propel us forward on our life's path. And just like that, we reach the end of the astrological wheel. The final two houses are anchored by the heavy hitters, Jupiter in Aquarius for House 11 and Saturn in Pisces for House 12. You've got the yellow sapphire of expansive wealth sitting right next door to the deep, mysterious blue sapphire of boundaries and confinement. The contrast between the opposite sides of the chart is absolutely staggering here. House 6, if you remember, was all about physical, tangible struggles. Our daily jobs, our open enemies, our literal debts. But directly across is House 12, Vyaya. This is the house of intangible, hidden things. It signifies loss, emigration, confinement in ashrams or prisons, and secret enemies. It's the realm where the physical world literally begins to dissolve. Anatomically, our journey finally hits the floor. House 11 takes us down to the calves, ankles, and the left ear, bringing us material gains, profits, and the backing of elder siblings and large communities. But House 12 brings us completely to the ground, to the feet and the left eye. Here, the material gains of House 11 are totally spent. House 12 is the house of expenses, donations, and charity. It is where we give everything away. So the crucial point is this core philosophy right here. Loss of boundaries, gain of spirituality. The 12th house strips away literally everything we've built. The wealth of House 2, the comfortable home of House 4, that peak career in House 10, it all dissolves in House 12. But, and this is key, this loss of physical boundaries is exactly what makes room for the ultimate gain of spiritual consciousness. This ancient map leads us from the fiery birth of the ego in House 1, down through the trials of the body and society, all the way to ultimate enlightenment or moksha in House 12. It's a pretty humbling reminder that we're all part of a much, much larger rhythm. So, as you look at your own life right now, ask yourself, which house are you currently pouring your energy into? And maybe more importantly, what might the stars be asking you to let go of next? Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.